Hey everybody, welcome back. I know it has been quite some time since I've put out a video, and my apologies. I've just been, quite frankly, way too busy with work, and I've just been unable to shoot a video. So, what we're going to attempt to do today is reassemble this Browning Auto-5, also known as Browning A5, that one of my friends had some issues with. And I suggested this nice little spring kit from Midwest Gunworks to completely rebuild the shotgun. As you saw in the previous video on the disassembly, that thing was absolutely nasty. It took me so long to clean this thing, I didn't even bother trying to shoot a video on it. Suffice it to say, I cleaned it as good as I could and re-oiled, re-lubricated everything. And today's video, I'm going to try to reassemble it from memory. Now, I did shoot a video a while back on the reassembly of this, and I didn't post it to YouTube. Why? Because I broke my action spring plunger. It actually shot out of the rear of this tube back here, and it shattered on impact. I think it hit the heater in the house. So, that ended that video. So, I got a brand new action spring plunger. This one actually came from Numrich Gun Parts Corp, and that spring or that plunger cost about, or that plug, I'm sorry, cost about $10. So it's not terrible. It's just the time it took to get it here, and of course take this whole thing back apart so you guys could actually see the video. So what we're going to attempt to do is put this thing back together. So we're going to take our bolt and our carrier, and we're just going to insert that in here. Try to insert that in here so I can get it to play nice. If I'm not mistaken, I got to get this hammer bar in before I go too much further. Or this bolt handle, I'm sorry. I think that's got to come down. Yeah, there we go. So then, what you're going to want to do, actually I do not have that in the right position. Okay, yeah, it's alright. Yep, it's good. Okay, so we're going to line up that hole there, and that's where we're going to put this piece in and drive the pin back in, which is no easy task. It's actually quite hard and very easy to screw it up. And I may do that once in this video. I don't have any super stupendous editing software or anything like that, so you guys get to see me struggle. So what we're going to do is I don't know how well you can see it, I'm going to press down on that, and I'm going to drive the pin in from this opposite side over here. While doing so, we're going to see if that works. Probably not. We all know how things go for me. Usually never the best. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong side. I'm going to drive it in from the side that's the larger side where I can actually get a punch in. That would be helpful. Alright, it looks like that's going pretty good. Let's finish driving that pin home. Alright, so that's good and seated. It should not be an issue, I don't think. Yeah, because that bar will hold that bolt handle in place. So next, we're going to try for this follower. This thing is always tricky, and I am the worst about trying to get this thing back in here. I'd like to say that I know exactly what I'm doing, but I don't. I've screwed this up more times than you can possibly imagine. I'm going to start with this side and get this screw in. At least try to anyway. not too far. Should go just like that. And it's just to kind of hold this thing in place where I can manipulate the other piece of this follower here, which is not easy. It's actually a serious pain in the butt. So we're going to lay this on its side, and now you can kind of see where those holes sort of line up. I'm going to get this other one in over here. Actually, I'm going to force it to line up a little bit with my punch prior to dropping that screw in. These things aren't terribly hard to get back together. It's just you really got to know the proper steps involved, and that is the hard part. So as you can see, the screw did not line up perfectly, so I'm going to back it off until I can get the slot or the half moon shaped part for the lock screw to go in. Once I do that, I'm going to grab my lock screw. And I laid these out for left and right, but they really don't matter. These are exactly the same on both sides. So just keep that in mind. Just going to snug that. Nothing crazy. So I'm going to have to back this one off now too, if you'll notice the moon shape's in the wrong spot. And that's no big deal. It's just like working on a Mauser basically, with some of their lock screws. So let's get this one back in here. So that's just good and snug now. So now that you see our follower moves like it should. Okay? So now the fun part. Getting the trigger guard, or the trigger housing in here, which is oftentimes no easy task. But today it looks like it might be, shockingly. Now these screws are different front to rear. Fatter one in the back, skinnier one in the front. There we go. So you'll press them through and then they will thread into the opposite side. That one just went past a tiny bit. Let's get the other one. It's a little better. Once again, just like on your follower down there, these lock screws are the same. So we'll insert our lock screws now. Just get them good and snug. Don't gorilla grip it. You'll strip out the head or you'll strip out the screw. That's why it's called a lock screw. And sometimes these might be a little tight, but once again, just make sure it's started good. So now you kind of see that's in there good. Both sides are assembled. You still have your follower here. It's not a big deal. Everybody, sorry I had to pause the video and disassemble this because I wasn't getting my follower to positively lock in place. And what had happened is I had to take this thing back apart, and it had to do with the spring that's on this trigger group that kind of presses up on that follower. And I didn't have something oriented just right, so I took it back apart, put it back together. So we're gonna try to finish this now. So once again, here is our, I guess, mainspring. Actually, let me reference what the name is of this. The action spring. I'm sorry, I keep thinking mainspring. I keep thinking like 1911s. Metal end first, plastic plunger end last. So we're going to feed that into here, and we're going to try to take extra special care not to let it jump across or fly across the living room this time, and on the same token try to hold it in place and get this pin in. This is by no means easy. It's always a pain in the butt, and these things are fragile. The original ones were actually made, helps if your hammer or if your bolt's all the way forward. The original ones were actually made out of wood. I had the choice when I got this from Gun Parts Corp of either doing a wood or a metal one. I mean plastic. I opted for plastic because that's how this gun was made. So I dropped that pin in place. It looks like she's being held in place. So what I'm going to do before I even actuate this, because I don't want this flying off, we're going to go ahead and put our buttstock on. We're going to get that secured in place before I test this out, just because I am probably overly paranoid. Give this a good tap. Drive it home. We're going to get this screw back in. I don't know how well you guys can see this. I apologize. It's very hard to work on it and show you what I'm doing at the same time. Oh, by the way, this is a good moment to basically tell you guys that you may not take my word for it on the reassembly of this. You might be better off actually watching Brownell's, I think it's a 5-part series on the Auto-5. They provide some really good pointers, especially if you have an older style A5. This one, it is old, but it's not like super old. It's not like the style they had. So they have a really good example of a very early style Browning Auto-5. Alright, so let's see if this thing actuates like it's supposed to. Once again, of course, you guys saw this thing is completely unloaded. Couldn't do anything with it if you wanted to. Oop. It locks open. And that's what we want. We want it to function just like that. Alright, so let's lock this back. And let's get this barrel back on here. But for starters, we're going to do some replacement on springs. There's our mag tube spring. This is our main action spring, I guess, and then here's all those wonderful bronze sleeves and collars and everything else. I was going to actually replace this mag tube spring, but when I was checking it, you know, it's still got good spring tension. So I'm going to hold off on that for now, and I'm going to go ahead and work on the action spring portion. Now, as always, I recommend that you pay close attention to this diagram that they send with it, depending on what you're going to shoot. What I'm going to be doing is testing this with the 2 3/4 loads, not the 3-inch Magnum loads. So as you can see, it's going to be that spring, and then items 2, 3, or 2, 3, and 3A is going to be the bronze friction piece, friction rings, and how it's going to rest in here. So basically, what you're going to end up using is one of these bronze rings And then you're going to use, make sure I got this right. Yep, these are all the same. And it says, make sure I'm reading this correctly, flat surface against spring. So we're going to put our spring on. We're going to put the concave side facing that way. We're going to put our brass friction ring in. And then we're going to put our barrel on. Actually, let me make sure of something. Actually, this has got to go on here before I do all that. I'll put that handguard on here. And on the same token, let's lock this back. Actually, that's not even going to matter. You're not going to get to see this on camera. I'm sorry, but I have to provide a considerable amount of leverage to get this barrel in here, as well as get this piece on here. Okay guys, and oh, by the way, I just completely hosed this up. Actually, this barrel goes on first, I'm sorry. Then your handguard will go on. Then, while I'm trying to hold this with one hand, because I didn't plan ahead good and use my brain, we're going to put this cap on. And this is what it looks like. There you have it. There's that Browning Auto-5 reassembled. Of course, it's assembled for the 2 3/4 loads. I'm not going to take the camera outside today. I'm sorry, but because it is super windy, you guys wouldn't be able to hear anything. But I'm going to test these 2 3/4 loads in here, and we're going to see how this thing functions. I'm very curious to see whether or not it's going to actuate correctly. So anyway, I'll be right back. Everybody, so it's not working properly. I think I might have narrowed down the issue. I've replaced all the springs in here with the exception of the mag tube spring, but I don't believe that's the problem. What it appears to be doing, and of course these are all unloaded or empty shells, spent casings. What appears to be happening here is that when it tries to eject, it's forcing another shell up. Well, this one still hasn't been ejected out, and it's basically when that other shell comes up, it's taking and forcing against this spent casing and flattening it out before it ever has the opportunity to eject it. So my suspicion is, I don't know how well you can see this, there's an extractor. Well, if I lock it back, you definitely can't see it, so that doesn't help. So there's an extractor right there at my thumb. Now, I'm going to try to insert a picture of this, but it appears as though one of the other common wear items on these old Auto-5s is the extractor and the extractor spring. So my next step in the process is I'm going to take and order a new extractor and a new extractor spring now, and replace it, and hopefully that fixes my extraction issues that I'm having, or well, that my friend is having. Now, I know what you're going to say. Yes, I tested this with both the 2 3/4 inch as well as the 2 3/4 inch Magnums. These are not, low velocity. I mean, these are high brass. These are, these are good shells. So, and I did set up I did do my friction ring set up properly. for each one before I shot it. So, you know, my suspicion here is the only thing left that I can think of that could possibly be causing the issue here, everything's lubed up good as well, by the way, would be the extractor and the extractor spring. So it looks to me like it's just not, or I guess ejector, I don't really know what you call that piece. I guess that's the extractor and sort of the ejector. I'm not real sure. Whatever that's actually called. So I'm going to order a new one. We'll replace it and see if it fixes this issue. Hopefully it does. Obviously the spring kit didn't fix it. However, you know, we didn't have all the original pieces anyway, so at least we have a proper ring set up now. But anyway, more to come. I'll get those parts in, I'll change this out, and we'll try it again. You're never going to knock a home run out, or you're never going to hit a home run every time when you're doing these things. Sometimes it's a trial and error, especially when it's not your own weapon, it's somebody else's. You don't know the history behind it, you don't know how well it's maintained, things of that nature. So, like I said, stay tuned for more. I'll get a new, I guess that's an extractor spring in, and we're going to see if that fixes the issue that I'm having. So anyway, as always, guys, thanks for your likes. Thanks for everybody that's a subscriber. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your shares. You know as well as I do how this content is sometimes suppressed. So any help like that, I greatly appreciate it, because it helps get the channel out there to more individuals, especially more like-minded individuals. So as always, everybody, thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day.